make it like seem like a big deal too.
Yeah,
I think Chris Fowler, he's completely fine and functional. I'm not saying he's bad, but when he does it, it just doesn't make it like you don't think like, oh, this is the game he's doing. Man, this seems like a big deal now. I think that might not be fair, but
I think it's only because though we're so new to him doing it. This is only his second year in the role, so let him call a few more years.
His third year.
Third, okay. Oh yeah, the second year where he's just solely focused on the games because he does a lot. I like it when I watch tennis and he's doing a game. He's very knowledgeable with regards to the Grand Slam and everything like that. He's very good. I'm surprised. So just since we're talking about Musburger here, why does he do SEC football and Big 12 basketball? You would think if you're going to stick him on the SEC network, you should just keep him there. Because obviously ESPN thinks he's good enough to do Big 12 basketball, which is pretty big, with Kansas and Texas, Oklahoma, and all that. But not good enough to be on the main network anymore. I guess just a little questionable to me.
So Vin Scully's calling his last games here. College football weekend. I don't think there was one game that I thought was any good. There were a lot of good, crazy stuff that happened and some good finishes.
Not that Arizona State Cal game that didn't get over till like 1 in the morning.
It was close, but it's Cal and Arizona State. It was an exciting finish. A lot of stuff happened at the end. Wisconsin upset Michigan State. I would say that's probably one that had the most ramifications. Wisconsin, who the hell knows? Like somebody said, they play up and down in their competition very well. Almost lose to Georgia State, and then they go out and beat who they beat, Michigan State yesterday. A team that Wisconsin beat a couple weeks ago, stacking, was LSU, and LSU, Les Miles is not their coach anymore. Are you okay with LSU saying get the hell out of here with your crappy offense?
It turns out the LSU Tigers wanted Les Miles, pun intended.
Boom.
That is tremendous. We need to put that up in the all-time ranks there.
Well, I stole that from someone else on Twitter. I didn't come up with it.
Oh, Charlie, don't say that here. And anything on the internet doesn't have to be true.
Stacking, would you say I'm okay with the decision? Last year when they're like, yeah, we should fire this guy, I'm like, no, that's a bit much. But you lose to Wisconsin, you lose to Auburn. I watched that game, and they didn't have a clue on offense. They gave the running back 16 carries. The running back's Leonard Fournette. He's very good. He needs more than 16 carries. The quarterback's no good. Either of them, the one from Purdue or Brennan Harris. There was one series I saw. They went 3 and out. Surprise, surprise, they threw all 3 times. That should never happen with this team. And they still goddamn near won it. They were 1 second away from winning it there at the end.
They were half a second from winning it.
They shouldn't have won it, and they didn't. Referees got the call right. But it's a deal where the offense has not been good for a long time. And we've talked about it in a long time. And for whatever reason, Cam Cameron, apparently because he was the offensive coordinator for Joe Flacco when they won a Super Bowl, that meant that he was worth a damn. But you could watch 5 minutes of that crap and say, nope, he's probably not very good. So
even with the Ravens, he wasn't that good for most of it. It's like he gets all this credit for because I think before the Dolphins, when he was 1-15 and got fired his 1 year as head coach, I think he was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers for that 4-year window where the Chargers had the most talented team in the NFL, but never played in the Super Bowl.
And Cam Cameron, 2 or 3 years ago, he did really well for LSU. This offense is really good under Cam Cameron. And LSU routinely, year in and year out, has a top 5, top 10 class, but they have failed at the most important position, and that's the quarterback position. Arguably, a lot of SEC teams fail at that position, but LSU, more so than any, has just floundered, and it came to a head yesterday. I think the writing was on the wall when we've heard this offseason. Brendan Harris, he's played really well in camp, and he's going to be the difference maker for LSU this year. And he certainly was a difference maker for LSU because Les Miles is fired now. And they're starting a guy from Purdue, a transfer from Purdue.
That's cradle of quarterbacks, Purdue.
Let's just let that sink in. That's not Drew Brees.
Drew Brees!
It's not even Kyle Orton.
Oh, shit, I forgot about him.
Here's the deal. Not every player gets better in the offseason. Not every player improves. They put in the work. They try to get better. And just because they do that doesn't mean they get better. So that's... And have you ever heard anybody say, boy, this quarter... I mean, he's awful.
He really regressed this offseason.
I mean, he actually...
not starting him because he got worse.
He got worse during the offseason. He worked for 8 hours a day, throwing 100 balls to 10 receivers each, and this guy got worse. That's unbelievable. So he's fired. Our guy, Coach O at Orgeron, hopefully, I believe, going to be the guy there. That should be a whole hell of a lot of fun. Marcus isn't there to do his thing, so we'll have him do that next week.
Go Joe.
Not bad. You want your Hummers?
Drexler does it better than I do, but...
You want your Hummers? You go to JoJo and get your damn Hummers.
I think when Orgeron was the interim head coach at USC when Lane Kiffin got fired on the tarmac or whatever.
They did good.
Which it seems like USC might fire their current head coach on the tarmac pretty soon here too. But I think Orgeron went 6-2, and I think one of them they beat Stanford, and I think Stanford went to the Rose Bowl that year. So I mean they weren't perfect and undefeated, but they looked way better under Orgeron than they did under Lane Kiffin.
So we'll see if Ed Orgeron gets the job. Stacking, Jimbo Fisher was the guy that was rumored last year. We'll see if he goes.
You never know. Things could go south in a hurry for Florida State. They barely beat South Florida by 20 on Saturday, so the folks in Tallahassee are a little restless. You lose to Miami, maybe you lose another game in there. Maybe this is a good time to get rid of Jimbo. I think Florida State's got a better head on their shoulders than the folks at LSU, but Jimbo would be a guy. Your guy, Tom Herman at Houston.
Ooh.
I think Tom Herman's going to be their first 4 phone calls.
I don't know.
I think that they're going to send people to hang out outside his house in Houston and just pay him money every day just to take the phone calls and listen to it.
Last week, who did we say would be a great matchup to watch that we could see LSU lose to?
Mike Holmgren and the Steelers.
I would say it would be North Dakota State. We could see that possibly happening. So why not give the old NDSU head coach a call?
Craig Bowl?
No, not Wyoming. Their current guy.
Their current guy? No, thank you.
So you think LSU is going to take the North Dakota State head coach? I think that's unlikely.
I know. I'm just saying it could
be interesting.
It might not be a bad idea. I don't know why.
No, it would be. It would be bad. It would not be good. It would be bad.
I don't think LSU wants to hire guys. Successful. I don't think LSU wants to hire guys that only have 2-3 years.
Chris Klieman
at 1AA.
Update here.
Herman doesn't have as much experience as a head coach, but there's a big difference between
levels.
Houston, where you're beating Florida State in bowl games, and Oklahoma in the non-conference, and North Dakota State, where you're beating Iowa.
Before Marcus and David just jump on,
they're going to kill you. They're going to murder Nathan Sack.
I'm kidding. Chris Klieman. I'm just joking. So let's just get it out right now. It's just a joke. But LSU's list has got to be short. Who else is out there that you would say, we want you to compete against Nick Saban? Maybe LSU should go for Nick Saban.
Whoa. Quick update. Dodgers beat the Rockies 4-3. 10th inning. How'd they do it, Stacking? How'd they do it?
I'm guessing a walk-off.
A walk-off. A walk-off balk. So, Vin Scully's last game, we had some recording issues. So, all the things we said about Jose Fernandez, not on here now. And the most of the things on Vin Scully, not recorded. So, that's where that goes. But everything else was recorded. So, there you go. But Vin Scully's. Yes.
Or go ahead.
So we'll get back to that at the end here. So his final call of a home game for the Dodgers ends with a home run. The list, I saw a list of guys. Obviously, Tom Herman's number one.
Yeah, I was going to say, after Herman and Jimbo Fisher.
It's not much. Well, a guy we talked about last week.
I mean, now, he could change a month and a half from now as guys improve and get better. I think, I'm not saying this guy even wants to leave. I think you could probably put Bobby Petrino on the list, though.
That was the guy we
talked
about.
Of guys that LSU might want to talk to. Now, that doesn't mean they'll listen. But, like, you go after those three. I mean, you could say David Shaw. I don't think David Shaw's going to leave Stanford, though. So I think you'd just be wasting your time there.
Safe to say this is going to be an offensive guy, Charlie, and it's not going to be a old-fashioned offensive guy. It's going to be a let's spread them out here a little bit offensive guy.
For LSU's sake, I hope so, because I get really annoyed, even though I'm not a fan of any specific SEC school. It annoys me when they say, we can't beat Nick Saban. Let's hire one of his assistants that's not as good of a head coach as him, and then try to out Nick Saban with not as good of players and not as good of coaches. It just does not work. Where the teams he has lost to recently, other than LSU in 2011 and Ohio State in the playoff a few years ago, who were about the only two teams that had as much talent as they did, are teams that are like, all right, we're going to spread it out with a mobile quarterback who's going to run around like a chicken with his head cut off, and he's going to make plays deep downfield, and that's how we're going to try to beat him because that's the only way we could maybe do it. And those are generally the teams that have more success. So that's what I would hope LSU does, as opposed to going the Georgia or Florida route and going, I don't know, let's bring in one of those assistants and try to someone, especially with not a whole lot of head coaching experience, and try to out Saban.
Well, who's out there right now that has ties to LSU that you think could be favored, or did I just miss that?
No.
Jimbo Fisher has ties to LSU.
Well, besides him, though.
But yeah, besides him,
that's unlikely.
I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head, but I'm not going to pretend to know like every assistant coach that's been there over the last decade either.
On the other side, Les Miles will be a.
I think Will Muschamp coached at LSU.
Will Muschamp.
I don't think LSU has any interest in giving him a phone call.
Maybe wait a year.
Will Muschamp that just lost at Kentucky yesterday? That Will Muschamp.
I think I saw somewhere, like shortly after Les got fired, that I think he was the most tenured coach in the SEC going into this year. So now, every coach or every school in the SEC has made at least one coaching change since Nick Saban got hired at Alabama in 2007. And I think almost all of them have been fired except Steve Spurrier at South Carolina.
James Franklin, he left.
Okay, Franklin left, so that would be the other one there.
Well, he's going to get fired here in a couple of years anyway, so may as well.
He might get fired in a month and a half.
Just to let you know, yes. Wake Forest has as many wins as LSU, Notre Dame, and USC combined.
Notre Dame, LSU, USC, trash.
How awesome does that USC Notre Dame regular season finale look now?
It seems so good, they'll probably send Musburger to call it. That's how big it's going to be. Les Miles, Mr. Stacken, will be a hot commodity. I would assume USC would like Les Miles to be their head coach and to win 10 games a year instead of not doing that. We'll see. See if Notre Dame's already fired their defensive coordinator. But would you expect Les Miles to get right back on it next year? He's got some time here to think about it.
He has time now. I would think we would see him in, but if he takes a year off, would not surprise me.
Oh.
But I think we see him back in there, and I will give you a place where he could possibly go. How about Baylor?
Wow. Charlie, reaction to Baylor saying Les Miles, come here.
Maybe. I think it's safe to say he's going to want to go somewhere where he doesn't have to build everything from scratch. And despite all the off-field problems, they at least have some guys that are talented there. So I mean, I don't know if I put Baylor at number one, but I think Baylor makes more sense than a lot of other schools do. I mean, I think USC makes sense. But you start talking about some schools that aren't as good. I mean, I don't think I'm trying to think of somewhere I saw earlier. But, like if Bill Snyder retires this year, like I don't think he's going to want to go to Kansas State. I mean, he's going to want to go somewhere where there's that it's easier to win. But the thing that I was going to add is, like, what if, hypothetically, he says, you know what, coaching was kind of fun. I don't know if I want to be in that pressure cooker all the time. What if they kind of retire Lee Corso from ESPN and Lance Miles is on College Game Day next year? Yes. So he's their new coach on game day, putting helmets on, or mascot heads.
Well, no. It's just going to be, he's going to hold up 2 pieces of turf. Am I going to eat Tennessee's turf, or am I going to eat Florida's turf today?
That would also work. Honestly, and it could be both of what we said, both Stacken and I. It could be he takes a year off and just does that for a year while he regroups, and then takes a job the next season, or maybe he does what Urban Meyer does and is like, well, maybe I want to go to USC and they don't fire Clay Helton in year 1. I'll just go work Pac-12 games so I can scout every team as an announcer and then take over as the head coach the next year.
And I think one of the reasons why Baylor would make a little more sense than USC is, and maybe this is more just a reason in my mind, but it's essentially the same recruiting ground in Baylor, that same region, as opposed to USC. I don't know if that makes a difference at all. I mean, these guys, all they do is recruit anyway, but you would know a lot more of the guys in the area with it being in Texas, because that's where you're going to try and recruit, is the Texas and Louisiana area more so, by him going to Baylor. And he would be the only team then that would play defense in that conference. So
that's a shot. That's a goddamn shot. How dare you besmirch the great Iowa State defense?
That's true. They only gave up 10 to the Spartans yesterday at San Jose State. So
what if Oklahoma State keeps losing? T-Boone Pickens gets fed up with Mike Gundy and his mullet, and they say, that's it. We're getting rid of Mike Gundy, and we're bringing Les Miles back home to Stillwater, Oklahoma.
I am going to throw something else out here, too, now.
NDSU, he's going to be the new NDSU coach.
Bob Stoops gets fired from OU. He goes to LSU.
I don't think Bob Stoops is getting fired this year, but now I kind of want that to happen because Oklahoma head coach Les Miles playing against Oklahoma State would be very interesting.
Do you think that the situation will... Well, he is 62 years old, Les Miles. A little older than I thought, so if he wants...
I didn't think he was that old either.
Like, he wants to retire, that'd be fine with me. So, even if he does go somewhere, he's going to be there for 5 years when he's 67? Maybe. But he ain't going to be there for probably 10 years, 72 years old. Would you see a situation where somebody fires their coach because they get Les Miles? Or do you see a situation where we're going to fire our coach regardless, and we just hope that Les Miles picks us?
I do not think it's going to be like it was with Jim Harbaugh, where people were saying we will fire our coach just on the chance that we can hire this guy. I don't think it'll be bad. But but even at 62, I think there's a lot of teams. There's more teams that would want Les Miles that he would not want to go to than there would be places Les Miles wanted to go to that have an opening that they would say, no thanks, we don't want you to come here.
Maybe Urban Meyer, he'll want to see his family again. I mean, was that the biggest crock of shit you've ever heard in your life? I got health issues.
Well, he made changes. Now he only works 19 and a half hours a week, and then 5 a.m. to 5:45 a.m. is family time, where he unplugs his phone, and he spends that time with his family now. So he's really, really changed his life around.
What a gentleman. What a gentleman. Wisconsin.
Another fun, interesting thing about Les Miles getting fired and Orgeron being the head coach now. I don't remember the date of the game, but in at least a few weeks, LSU plays Ole Miss, which is where Orgeron used to be a head coach and got fired from. I don't remember if it's in Baton Rouge or in Oxford, I hope it is in Oxford, Mississippi, because that will make it even more
let's
funny.
pull it up here.
But
The game is not in Oxford. It is at LSU.
That LSU. Either way, it'll still be interesting that week.
Wisconsin, they won, so Michigan State kind of ends any hope they had of a playoff unless they can beat both Michigan and Ohio State, which I don't see happening. Wisconsin, very tough schedule. This is an insane schedule they got here in the middle, and 1-0 so far, so we'll see if they get out of this mess. If they're 3-1 out of this mess, then they're still very much in it, and if they are 3-1, they're probably going to go to the Big Ten title game. So Wisconsin defense very good again. Probably the game of the week was Tennessee and Florida with just perfect garbage Tennessee. Receivers couldn't catch a damn thing. Florida, big play on offense to start the deal off to get up early. And second week in a row, a 21-0 comeback in the SEC on CBS. And totally different team there in that second half. Charlie, it finally happened. You've been wondering before any of us die if we'll ever see Tennessee beat Florida again. And Jesus Christ, we saw it.
Go ahead.
Not very likely we were going to see that, considering 21-0 there early on.
Yeah, I know for the last 3 or 4 years, I have every week or every year they've played, I thought, yep, this is the year Tennessee does it. They're going to beat Florida, mostly because Florida hasn't been all that great the last few years. And every year I went, can't believe I fell for it again. I'm definitely picking the Gators the next year. And this year was the year I finally went, nope, not doing it. I'm picking Florida. And I felt pretty good when they were up 21-3, and Austin Appleby looked like the second coming of Rex Grossman in the first half. And I don't have anything against Tennessee, but was kind of having some laughs at their expense. And then, I don't remember which play it was. I think it was like a play-action pass Tennessee threw to their tight end to cut it to 21-17. And basically when that happened, I was like, yeah, this game's over. Tennessee's going to win. They've got all the momentum. And they scored pretty quickly after that on that long touchdown pass where the guy bobbled it for a second but ended up scoring. And it just looked like the complete reverse script of the last 11 or 12 years, that in the second half Tennessee played like Florida always does, and Florida played like Tennessee.
I believe Tennessee plays Georgia next week. Is that right?
Oh, good.
They do. That's my game in my ultimate college football road trip. It was Wisconsin and Michigan State this week, and that one did not live up to the hype of the previous 3 weeks.
And the game is at Tennessee, so that has all the making, Hildebrand. That has all the makings for a Georgia victory, even though Georgia has looked about as unimpressive as you could possibly look here early in the season. Ole Miss, the first half lead, holds this time, and they whoop up on Georgia. We've talked about this before, but is Ole Miss the second best team in that conference, Stackett?
Yes. I mean, if you could just keep a 21-point lead one of the 2 times that you had
preferably the time you played Alabama.
Yeah, sure. Beat Alabama. But yeah, they're probably the second best team in there. I don't think that's to pull an old Mark Schlereth here. I don't even think it's a question.
It's not even a question. Well, Charlie Hildebrand, what do we think about the Aggies?
I think it's a question.
What do we think
this
about?
Is the problem.
I don't know if I want Texas A&M.
I don't know if do you want to put more faith in Texas A&M, who's undefeated but chose to collapse, or do you want to put faith in a team that's blown 2 21-point leads in the first month of the season?
I will put my faith in Ole Miss. I will not put it in A&M. I'm still not with them.
Even though Trevor Knight looks like Johnny Manziel 2.0 minus the drugs. Maybe minus the drugs. He might be doing drugs. I don't know.
It's unfair.
Isn't he with Katy Perry? Didn't Katy Perry try and go after him when he was at Oklahoma?
Tried.
2 years ago. That was when, he was really good up to that point, and then she said that, and he just fell off a cliff. So I don't know In my brain, I pretend that that's the reason why he started sucking. It was because he got too worried about that. But
I predicted A&M would have 4 wins this year. I am dead wrong on that.
You're right. They do have 4 wins this year right now. You're actually 100% correct. You just need them to lose the next 8 now.
Yep.
Texas A&M should win next week against the Fighting Muschamps. 5-0. 5-0 versus Tennessee at home. Tennessee going to A&M. That'll be a dandy. I don't know what the schedule's like in 2 weeks.
Maybe. They'll be there.
Maybe. I don't know what the schedule's like in 2 weeks, but gotta think that might be the game of the week. And then after that, if they can get by Tennessee at 6-0, they got Alabama at Alabama. And after that, there's really not much on the schedule. Tough games. Mississippi's at home. LSU's not very good. So A&M, maybe they can do a deal here where they go 10-2 and maybe get to a Peach Bowl or Sugar Bowl or something like that. So.
And it's worth noting, Texas A&M has a quarterback that has beat Alabama before. It was not at Texas A&M, but he did still do it. Okay. And he looks more like he did in that Alabama game through the first 4 weeks of the season than he did before he got run out of Oklahoma.
There was a 17-17 tie in that Arkansas game. And our boy Burt decides to go for it. He's at the half a foot line, and they still couldn't. They tried a reverse of some sorts or a jet sweep, and couldn't quite get it done there. In the end, it doesn't really matter. They lost by 3 touchdowns anyway. So kick the field goal there, go for it, whatever. But pretty important game as far as the West there was concerned with Arkansas and Alabama. This week we got the 3 different matchups of top 10 teams, which I can't imagine we've ever had more of. Maybe we've had three of those before. But what you got? Wisconsin and Michigan. You got Washington, Stanford, and you got Louisville and Clemson. Other games of note. What do we have? Baylor beat Oklahoma State 35-24. Expected some more points from that. Nebraska almost had a scare, Charlie, but they're now 4-0.
They found a way to turn it over twice at the 1-yard line and still win. So I guess I'll take that.
Quickly, next week's schedule.
2 weeks.
Alabama or 2 weeks. Yeah, excuse me. Alabama at Arkansas. FSU at Miami. Those are the 2 big ones.
Not a lot there.
They're on the calendar.
So Tennessee and A&M would be your big game that week.
And I thought College Game Day might be coming to Fargo on October 15th for the Dakota Marker game. I'm guessing they're going to go to Camp Randall in Wisconsin for OSU and Wisconsin.
Could be. That's in 2 weeks?
Well, depending. That's 2 weeks from now?
3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks.
2 weeks. Wait, 2 weeks. What the hell? I don't know.
Wisconsin have a bye week?
3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
October 15th.
Okay.
Stanford, UCLA.
Wisconsin plays Michigan next week. Then they get a bye week. And then they play Ohio State.
Michigan.
Especially if Wisconsin beats Michigan. I mean, that's going to be the biggest Wisconsin game since, God, I don't know. I guess since they played Ohio State in the Big Ten title game a few years ago.
The other game that was not very fun to watch, but was close, was Stanford at UCLA. And Stanford wins by 9, even though they were down by, They were down by 4 points with 20.
With like 15 seconds left.
So that's a hell of a turnaround there. 14 or 13 points in the final 30 seconds. The fade worked. It always does work. I've been a big proponent of the fade ever since the civil rights movement. Stanford at 3-0. I'm sure they'll get tripped up somewhere along the way. They got Washington next week. But poor UCLA just can't score any goddamn points there. Would have been a nice victory for them. David Shaw decided to punt a 4th and 1 around his own 40 with 5 minutes to go. I did not like this decision. Hordes of people did not like this decision. It ended up working because they won the game. but they got the ball back with about 2.5, 3 minutes less on the clock, and they had the ball 1st and 10 from 10 yards back from where they were. You'd like to think you could convert a 4th and 1, but they sure as hell didn't. We talked last week about 3 instances where teams decided to kick and they never got the ball back. Charlie, this one was okay, I guess, because they ended up winning. But were you as stumped as I was? And this wasn't 4th and 1. This was 4th and about a foot.
In some ways, I was, and I don't mean to ride the fence saying this, but I was because of Stanford's mentality and makeup that we're going to be tough and physical. We're going to have a really good offensive line. We're going to pound you. So you think that Stanford should almost always be able to get a 4th and 1. And the only reason I didn't think as strongly about it was because I didn't see it live. I saw people talking about it, but by the time I saw that people were mentioning that, they had already gotten the ball back. So I think in the moment, I would have thought that they should have done it, but we talked a lot last week about teams that punted it when maybe they shouldn't have. A lot of those teams, especially like Texas, that they're calling cards their offense. If you're calling cards your offense, I would say you should always go for it. At least with Stanford not going for it, they're at least playing to their style of saying, we're going to try to play defense and get the ball back. So, I would agree with you that they should have gone for it. But at least they were not doing anything dramatically different than they normally were. And unlike the Texas Cal game and Notre Dame, Michigan State game, there had not been nearly as many points scored in the game either. So I agree with you, but it made more sense in a vacuum that Stanford did this than Texas and Cal doing it in that super high-scoring game where neither defense could stop anybody, it seemed like.
For me, it was more of a deal where if you punt it, you're probably going to get the ball back. I don't know how much time you're going to have left, but they added up at about 25 more seconds than they needed. And I just didn't think that their offense could do what they did there. Like, all right, if we punt, we're going to get it back with 2.5 minutes to go, and we're going to have to go 70 yards. And they did that. Just barely.
They not only punted it, they also ran a fade for a touchdown that worked. So they were going completely against what everybody wanted them to do.
Unbelievable. Clemson played on a Thursday night. It's a very pedestrian game that was, 26-7. Utah.
Georgia Tech.
At least one of us picked Georgia Tech, and I'm pretty sure it was me.
That's right.
And I don't feel good about that.
Utah played USC. Entertaining game. A late touchdown by my Utes, Charlie. My 10-2 Utes. 4-0 on the season. My 6-6 Trojans at 1-3. Just like everybody figured here.
I think you overrated the Trojans at 6-6.
If I overrated them at 6-6, that's somebody who's not here had them at 10-2. So that's.
To be fair to USC, the 3 teams they've lost to, I think we can say that
they're good
Alabama's
teams.
really good. Stanford's really good. I don't know if Utah's as good as those two are, but Utah's at least pretty good. I'm comfortable saying Utah's probably one of the 25 best teams in the country. While their other 2 losses are the top 10 teams. So, I think USC's going to finish with a poor record, but some of it's going to be that they just have a brutal schedule.
You know what would be fun is if that USC Notre Dame game at the end of the season was for who would be able to get to 6 wins and get to
both 5-6.
Yep.
Schottenkirk had mentioned that at some point, and I also hope that it works out that way. Nope, I take it back. I hope that one team's 5-6, the other is 4-7, and that the 4-7 team wins and neither go to a bowl game.
This would be great.
The last game of the season, Thanksgiving weekend, for Utah, they host Colorado. What are the chances, Charlie, the winner of that game goes to the conference title game?
That's a good question. A lot higher than I would have thought 3 weeks ago. Because I thought, going into the season, I mistakenly in our preview show had UCLA winning the Pac-12 South, which they still could, because one of their losses is a non-conference loss. But, Colorado played a lot better against Michigan than I thought they would, and then they beat Oregon in Eugene. Like, I feel pretty good about Colorado at least going to a bowl game. And I don't think anyone from the Pac-12 South is going to win 10 games. I think 9 games might do it. But I don't know. I like your question, and I hope that game does decide who goes to the conference title game.
Arizona State's...
Who a better bowl game? Wake Forest or Notre Dame or USC?
I hope Wake Forest.
USC. Between those choices.
Arizona will go to the Arizona Bowl. Congratulations.
Arizona State
the
second.
Gildan, New Mexico Bowl.
Gildan. Arizona State is 4-0. I don't believe this at all. Maybe they go 7-5, but that's a deck of cards I think is going to collapse here pretty goddamn soon.
They're weird under Todd Graham. They've had a couple of years where people didn't think they'd be great and they looked really good, or at least 1 year, and then they've had years where people are like, oh yeah, look at all these guys the Sun Devils have back, and then they go 6-6. So I can never put my finger on Arizona State, but I agree that this does not look like a team that's going to win their next 4 or 5 games in a row.
I do have here for the first time that I've seen a bowl projection list week 4. It's just for the Pac-12. I don't know, maybe they got them for everybody. That's a bit much. We like to look ahead a little bit.
You can find bowl projections every week.
I mean, that's insane.
Like ESPN and Fox Sports.
That's a bit much for me. A bit much for me right now. So, Lamar Jackson had a pretty bad game, only scored 7 times, so that kind of puts him off the pace of 8 times a game, so he might only have like 60 touchdowns this year.
He might only win the Heisman by 500 votes instead of 1,000 votes now. Michigan
whipped that ass, known as Penn State. That was fun to see. Houston wins. Washington damn near won. The 2018, the 2017 national champions, apparently. They almost lost at Arizona, so I believe that's a Friday night game, Washington and Stanford. That'll be good to see.
Is this the classic Travis Krentz show me something Washington game?
Where's that? Is it at Washington?
I don't remember where it's at.
I think it is at Washington, yep.
Well, I mean, this is interesting here, because Stanford kind of eking by here, not blowing folks away, which that's really not their style, and not their offense. Stanford to Washington, if you want to do, I had Washington like at 10-2, and I had Tennessee at like 10-2, so I expect them to win some games. But I think this was a game I had them probably losing. But I would say if you want to show me something, Washington, knock off Stanford right there. Because Cam Newton sure as hell didn't show me anything, and Florida State didn't show me anything last week, and so I'm waiting for somebody to show me a thing, and they would be the team to do that, I think. Game of the week. Okay, how about this? Knowing what we know now, if you want to pick a game that's already been played, that's fine. And I assume your answer right now is different than it would have been 4 weeks ago. But as far as Nathan, the game of the year is what? As far as importance.
I said it last
definitely different.
Well, you've said Louisville, Houston, perhaps.
Yep, and it is going to be that big of a game because I'm going to say right now, Louisville will either have 1 loss or no losses. Houston will have no losses. That is a playoff elimination game right there. That is the biggest game remaining on the calendar this season, outside of what's going on in Death Valley next week.
I like the Houston story, and I think they can still get in the playoff. I don't think things have gone as well as Houston wants them to the last couple of weeks, though.
Oklahoma did a thing where they weren't good.
I think going into the season, I would have said the biggest game was Alabama and LSU. I am very confident saying that is not the most important game of the season. I also thought Florida State Clemson, but less so now that Florida State has that loss. I'm going to say that it's going to be Ohio State and Michigan's the biggest game, because I think Ohio State's going to go into that game undefeated. I think Michigan will go into that game with one or fewer losses. They might lose to Michigan State, but I think they'll beat everyone else. And whoever wins that game is going to go to the Big Ten title game. And I think we'll also win the Big Ten title and go to the playoffs. So I'm going to say Michigan and Ohio State is the biggest game for the rest of the year. And every time you've given us this reprieve and redo, I have horribly botched mine, so that means it will not be Michigan and Ohio State.
I would probably go that way as well, and if the winner of that game is undefeated and the loser, that's their only loss, the loser has a real good resume to say we belong in the playoff as a one-loss team that did not even make their conference championship game.
That's why Houston-Louisville's bigger. That's an elimination game.
Louisville might be eliminated Sunday or Saturday.
No.
I am picking my national champion, my Clemson Tigers, to win this game. I believe they're a 3-point favorite. I believe Stacken sounds like you're going to go with the road team, the Louisville Cardinal.
No, I'm picking Clemson.
You are picking Clemson.
Very narrowly, but I'll pick Clemson. Tough. I'm going to say Deshaun Watson says, hold on to that Heisman Trophy talk. I'm still in the mix here. And I say they win a close one over Louisville. I'm going to say 34-31.
Charlie.
I am going to take Clemson 38-30. I think it'll be a pretty good game. I think Clemson's going to be really good throughout the rest of the year. And the winner of Clemson and Louisville will have something to say about this. But through 4 weeks, I think we're all just killing time till Ohio State and Alabama play in the national title game now.
To me, this is a. I am very much.
I think those are the two most talented across the board teams. I think Louisville and Clemson have good enough and dynamic enough quarterbacks that they could be the fly in the ointment that changes that. But I was like, and I think other teams can be really good and make the playoffs, and things will change. And you never want to make definitive statements in week 4. But those two teams just kind of look like they're better than everybody else right now.
Yes, they do. In the past, I've had trouble with Ohio State. I have no issue with Ohio State. They are very good because they're quarterback. They got a quarterback now, and he is very good. I'm very much anticipating this game. This seems like a big game because you got Lamar Jackson. He's been the story of the season. And you've got Clemson, who's been disappointing early on. But this, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this game.
I don't have an answer off the top of my head, but best quarterback matchup since?
Let's take it.
I'm trying to think. It's been a while.
Since probably Josh Heupel and Eric Crouch.
So I might be missing one from last year, but 2 years ago, Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota played in the playoffs, and it ended up not being a great game. But I think that it's probably the best quarterback matchup since then. Unless I'm probably blanking on 3 or 4 good ones last year.
Well, like Alabama's always in there, and they haven't had a quarterback that's letting the world on fire.
I guess maybe since Baker Mayfield and Watson in the playoff last year, which also that didn't really.
This is going back. First half. This is going back a good 6-7 years now. But what Sam Bradford and Tim Tebow, I think, was a.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
They both won Heisman's, right? That was one of the rare times.
They both won Heisman's already at that point in time. Yes. It was a national title game between Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks.
Unique New York.
Also that year, Oklahoma also played Texas and the Sam Bradford, Colt McCoy, and they were both very, very good quarterbacks too.
I asked Charlie this for the podcast this week. I'll ask this to you, Crittens, and Charlie can answer.
I always answer the same, 6 inches. 6 inches.
With next week, you have the 2 marquee matchups featuring 2 top 10 teams. Of course, Louisville.
Three top 10 teams.
Sorry, we wish it were Sunday. Saturday, excuse me. So you have Clemson, Louisville, and you have Wisconsin, Michigan.
Sure.
Are those two games enough to say that this is one of the best weeks of the college football season? Because if you look at the rest of the slate, it's not very good. But just because of these two matchups, does this make it a must-see weekend?
If you want to, are we adding Stanford or Washington on Friday night? Or
sure, I guess, yeah. I mean,
7 versus 10. Well, there's not much beyond that. I mean, there's I don't even know what you would say is the next best. I mean, Tennessee, Georgia doesn't do a whole lot for me. Oklahoma, TCU could have been a thing.
So if you still care about the Big 12, I think Oklahoma and TCU, but I'm not as confident in that as I was 3 weeks ago.
So would you rather have a bunch of good things or 3 really potential great things? I hope Michigan just destroys Wisconsin. And I could see Washington beating Stanford. And, best week of the season. Week 1 really, at the end of it, really wasn't all that good. We were waiting for that Texas-Notre Dame game there at the end. That kind of pushed it over the top. Ole Miss, Florida State was one half of something and the second half of the other. And that Saturday, LSU shit themselves. And there wasn't a whole lot besides that. But as far as before the season or before the week starts, I would say this is as good as you're probably going to get. And none of it involves SEC. None of it involves Big Ten. So I would say, what did you say, Charles?
I said that I think that whenever you can have a couple really good games to take it, more or less. So I think that you always like when there's a whole bunch of good games, but if you've got 3 that on paper could be great top 10 matchups, to generally take that. And then I think there's usually some other smaller games that end up being good. And then you said that this week on paper could be one of the best, going into the season, or looking at it, on paper ahead of time. I would probably agree with that. I thought the only other time that you generally say there's always going to be great games is the last weekend before the conference title games, where almost everyone plays a rivalry game that week.
What are the chances, Stacking, that North Dakota State's ranked? I believe the coaches poll does not have them. They are now 28th in the nation with Arizona State and Oklahoma ahead of them. Georgia, they are 25 with the Boise.
So they dropped in the AP poll from last week.
I think they would have to beat. No, it's not going to happen. They don't play anyone of caliber. I mean, who's their first game this week? I think, is it Missouri State?
That's the state school of Missouri. Missouri. They got the Riots. They did have a football team professionally. And
I heard their Missouri State quarterback. Oh no, Illinois State comes to the Fargo Dome, so that'll be very good. But regarding Missouri State, I hear their quarterback is suspended because he is being investigated for breaking a dog's jaw.
It's no good. Don't do that.
Sounds like a swell guy. But yeah, I think we've seen North Dakota State as going to go in the AP poll this year, just because, like Stacken said, even if if Northern Iowa and South Dakota State and whoever else all end up somehow being in the top 5 when they play them, almost nobody that votes in the AP poll is going to watch or care about that. They've got the most notable win of the season they're going to get. They're going to get more notoriety for beating Iowa than they will for whoever they play in the national title game, assuming they go that far again, which based off the last 6 or 5 or however many years, it looks like they probably will. It's just, it's a product of where they play and who they play, that there's nothing they can do that will be as loud and noticeable as beating an Iowa team that won 12 games and played in the Rose Bowl the year before.
Other teams that the coaches decided were so good we have to vote for them. Appalachian State got a vote. Troy got a vote. Maryland got 2 votes, for Christ's sake. And South Florida...
At least Maryland's undefeated, though.
And South Florida also a vote.
Florida's not undefeated.
Minnesota's got 14 points in the coaches poll. They have none in the media. That is a stark difference. between the two right there. So
means the media doesn't know what the hell they're talking about.
well, they do got a good quarterback. I know that much. A small
Hey,
tribute.
Stackett picked them to win 10 games. They only need to win 7 more to get to
close.
10.
Getting close. Tribute.
Stackett, which are you more confident the rest of the way? That Minnesota gets to 10 wins, or that Texas A&M stays at 4 wins?
Minnesota getting to 10 wins, far more confident in that.
Trivia
A&M
question.
will somehow find a way to flub this up and win a game out of the next 8.
Trivia question, I guess, impromptu here. I believe there are 11. It's either 10.
Trivia questions.
It's either 10, 11, or 12. I think it's 11. Name bowl games Les Miles been to in his career, Oklahoma State or LSU. Charlie can go first. The name of the bowl game that Les Miles has coached in.
Does BCS national title game count, or do I have to get more specific?
That would count. If you would say that, that would count. And I will say yes, that is correct. He's done it twice. He won one of them, and he lost the other. Stacking.
Sugar Bowl.
He has coached in the Sugar Bowl once. 2006. Who did he beat? He beat Notre Dame. Charlie.
I will go with the old standby for Big Ten SEC games and say the Outback Bowl, where I think they beat Iowa in 2013.
That'd be correct. Outback Bowl win versus Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz.
Kirk Ferentz, the Les Miles in the Big Ten, sort of. But not really at the same time.
He's the Mike Sosha of the Big Ten.
Fuck you, Mike Sosha.
Whoa, hey now. Let's gotta fucking blur that out here after the show.
Yeah, watch that shitty language, Stacking.
God damn it. Okay.
I really hope he's been in the Music City Bowl before.
I don't think he has, Stacking. Oh, yes he has. Yes he has. Goddamn right. You remember it from a couple of years ago. A very exciting game against Notre Dame, of course. Notre Dame. Why the hell wouldn't he play Notre Dame? Charlie.
Let's see. In 2008, I believe he lost to, or no, 2009 maybe. 2008 or 2009, I think they played Penn State in the Capital One Bowl and lost.
That was a deal where they played in the Capital One Bowl. And they didn't win the game. 2009. It was a 1917. Boy, that sounds like an LSU score. 1917. Stacking.
It could not sound more LSU Penn State than that right there.
1917.
Peach Bowl?
Did they ever play in the Peach Bowl? Yes, they played in the Peach Bowl in 2005. Also for Chick-fil-A Bowl, 2012 against my Clemson squad, 25-24. That doesn't sound like an LSU score at all. And they beat Miami 40-3 one year. So yes, Peach Bowl / Chick-fil-A Bowl is accepted. Oh, we got 5, 6 left, 4, 5, 6 left, something like that.
I'm trying to think. I may have used up all the ones that I straight up know that they played in. Other than one, I'm trying to hold on as my Money in the Bank one. There's one I'm trying to run through my head to remember if they played in ever or not.
There's 5 left. There's one that might be the.
I don't know if they did, so I'm not going to guess on one. I will say I'll use up one of my ones I wanted to keep. I will say they played in the Alamo Bowl against Ohio State in 2004.
That was a correct thing that happened.
I think they got smoked, if I remember right.
Alamo Bowl. It was 33
to. I'm not quite sure of the bowl game here or who was sponsoring it at the time, but they played at the Houston Bowl before.
Oh, look at you. 2002? has the Houston Bowl now become the Texas Bowl? Yes, it has.
Has it?
I'm not sure. Nope.
I know it's not the Valero Bowl because that's played at the Alamo Bowl there in San Antonio.
Let's see. 2002, Oklahoma State beat Southern Mississippi 33-23 in the Houston Bowl. The short-lived Houston Bowl.
The Houston Bowl. I think we'll see if anyone remembers this guy's name, who used to be a running back for Oklahoma State. I think Tatum Bell had like a 90-yard run in that game that he didn't score on.
Jesus.
And it's just, when you think about it, if you have a run of more than 70 or 80 yards, it is really difficult to not score on it.
Tatum Bell, Denver's own. Take a gander. How about this for a receiver? You want to name one of the receivers on that game?
I know it's that one guy that got drafted in the first round. Is it Rashawn Woods?
Rashawn Woods, 9 catches, 164 yards.
Who I think got drafted in the first round by the 49ers and had like 6 catches in his NFL career.
Wasn't any good. Was not a good play. We got 3 left. Charlie. 2, 3.
There was one I was thinking of, and because it's a bowl game the SEC plays in, and then I remembered that the Big 12 also played in that game, so I have double chance, I guess, of him playing in it. I might go out on this one. I'm going to guess at some point in time, though, that Les Miles has played in the Cotton Bowl.
He's played there twice with both schools. 2010, LSU beat A&M 41-24. And Oklahoma State lost to Ole Miss 31-28, 13 years ago.
If they scored 41 points in 2010 in a bowl game, clearly Cam Cameron was not around then.
I was really hoping you wouldn't say the Cotton Bowl because I'm not so sure about this one that I'm about to say.
I believe this is the only one left. You got one left.
Well, then I will go out on a limb and go out with the Independence Bowl in Shreveport.
Close. This is a bowl game. Similar to that. It's the Meineke Car Care Bowl of Texas. Texas. This was last year. They played Texas Tech, and LSU scored 56 points versus Texas Tech last year. Hard not to be optimistic for the season when you can put up 56 versus Texas Tech. Hard not to be. So.
That was the bowl game matchup that inspired our bowl games as wrestlers.
There you go. Very good.
Wasn't that game, though, played in Houston?
It was. I believe so. I get that may have counted as the Houston Bowl. That may have trickled over. So that may have been the same thing.
Okay.
So, let's see. May have been playing the same.
But good question. I like that. And I think I saw somewhere that with Les Miles being fired and no longer being the head coach, that there are no active SEC head coaches that have won an SEC title as a head coach outside of the state of Alabama now. Wow. That Gus Malzahn and Nick Saban are the only active head coaches with a conference with an SEC title as a head coach now.
I don't know where they played the Houston Bowl before the Texans got there. Maybe they played it in the Astrodome. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I would say a tie. Nobody. We'll go with a tie. And Gus Malzahn maybe saved his job for another week. So good there. Another impressive offensive showing with 6 field goals from Gus Malzahn.
I'd like to point out there were 8 overtime games this weekend.
Oh, shit.
There was 1 quadruple overtime.
Really?
And all 3 of my non-conference game picks went to overtime, and I succeeded with 2 of the 3.
What was the 4 overtime game?
The Tulane and Louisiana Lafayette.
Really? Oh, shit. Very excited. Another good week of college football. I was entertained, if not good games. I was entertained.
Real quick, I'm looking up one thing that I'm going to ask both of you guys. related to Auburn football.
Oh, God.
Assuming that this goes through here. Well, I think it'll be sort of interesting at least. Like, I'm not going to pretend this is like the best question ever, but as I am pulling up their schedule here on my iPad when I should have done it on the computer. Okay, so they just beat LSU. I will list off their remaining games along at what point they have a bye week. And you guys say it. After which game is Gus Malzahn going to get fired?
What are they, 2-2?
They are 2-2 with losses to Clemson and Texas A&M, wins against Arkansas State and LSU.
I will say that Malzahn's Auburn team this year has actually played competitive football in every game. Like, they've been in it.
The problem I have is he's an offensive guy, and their offense sucks. And that's no good.
And you picked them this week. I was going to take them, and like, if there's a week to take Auburn, this is it. And you have to take them, so now I'm forced to take Arkansas over Alcorn State.
I think that's going to happen, Sack, and I think I like your chances of beating the fighting.
I know, but I want to save Arkansas.
No.
You just have to
I'm not this year. My philosophy that's going to tear my ass up is I'm not saving anything. If Alabama's the team, I'm picking you. So I'm not saving anybody. It was a good week for me to get some teams out of the way. Indiana didn't quite do it. Oregon, not so much.
Northern Illinois, thanks for losing to Western.
Awful.
Northern Illinois is awful. They have not won a game this year after being a MAC power recently.
Not good.
And I've got Auburn's schedule pulled up here. Next week they host the Louisiana Monroe Warhawks. I think we can all agree they'll probably win that game. And then they have a bye week.
Depends on if Duck Dynasty shows up for the game or not. But I'll take Auburn.
Good.
Oh, no, they do not have a bye week. Okay. Louisiana Monroe. Then the next week, on October 8th, they play at Mississippi State.
I hope you can win that one. And
then he has a bye week. And then off a bye week, they host the Arkansas Razorbacks on October 22nd.
Probably not a game.
I gotta think they would. If he loses to Mississippi State badly, he gets canned. But because that way it gives you 2 weeks to digest everything and prepare for Arkansas. I mean, if Arkansas is ranked at the time, why would you fire him if you lose that one?
Maybe they beat Arkansas. They probably don't, but I'd say they would be at that point 4-3. I'd say he could lose to Arkansas, and that would be fine.
So he's not fired yet.
Nope.
Next game, at Ole Miss.
That's a game they're probably losing. At that point, they'd be 4-4. At that point, we might be saying, "Up, is it coming?" But no, not yet.
Their next game at home, they play Vanderbilt.
They lose that one, he's done.
Win that game, you're 5-4.
Their next game, they play at Georgia.
Probably lose that game, but that's a game they could win, but they probably lose. So I got them at 5-5.
Fired or still coaching?
Still coaching. I think we're going to make it through the year here.
Their next game, they host 1AA Alabama A&M.
6-5, right in the middle.
Ooh, I'm saving Auburn for that week.
There you go.
And then at Alabama, final game of the regular season.
If you win that one, you buy yourself 5 years and knock him out of the national.
I would agree that if he's still around then and he wins that game, it's really unlikely he's going to get fired.
I gotta say it's going to be the Mississippi State game that will be the measuring stick, because if he loses by a field goal, let's say, then I think he keeps his job through the entire season, barring a loss to Alabama A&M. But if he gets the door, if Auburn loses by like 3 touchdowns to a Mississippi State squad that lost to Southern Alabama, who barely beat Nicholls State this weekend, then he's got to go. That's the game.
I think he finished the season 6-6, bowl game 7-6. He comes back next year. Next year is an important one. They should start 3-1, maybe 4-1 next year. They play Southern. They're at Clemson. They play Mercer. They're at Missouri. They host Mississippi State. So you got to go 4-1 in that little stretch there, and maybe even beat Ole Miss after that to go 5-1. So they got a chance to have a good start next year. So if they let them go here, hopefully they can figure out their offense and get something going.
I will say he gets fired either after the Arkansas or Ole Miss game this year.
Sad.
I think that, and I'm not saying he should be. I'm saying he will, though, because I think over the last decade or so, we've seen that Auburn fans maybe are more quick to pull the trigger firing coaches than any other team in the country is. It's like, nope, we don't care. Don't care that you won a national title 2 years ago. You're out.
It's a shame. NFL, Vikings won a game. They haven't lost the game yet. They scored 2 points in the first quarter. They scored 3 times that many in the second. They scored 4 times that many in the third. Couldn't quite keep it up, but they did score another 6 points in that fourth quarter stacking. Their 22-10 victory versus Carolina. Carolina already lost more games now than they did all regular season last year. And the defense is great. The defense has won every game so far.
I would just like to say I was so impressed when Miguel Sano hit that 2-run home run in the
Bang!
first quarter there. That was tremendous. This is one of the all-time best defenses in Vikings history. Of course, we were not around to see the Purple People Eaters, but I imagine that you can draw a comparison to them. And
is that a racial joke? Is that a racial joke?
No.
Okay. Continue.
Well, maybe if you're purple, maybe you might have an issue with that. But I think they're easily a top 5 defense in the NFL this year. You're right. They've won every game for them this year. And the offense was as dreadful as you could possibly be in that first half. But I would say you go in, you're down 10-8, and you're like, holy shit. We had 34 yards of offense in the first half, and we're only down by 2. We're going to beat these guys. And to sack Cam Newton 8 times and contain him, you think about what the Vikings have faced in terms of the 3 quarterbacks early this season, Marcus Mariota, Aaron Rodgers, and Cam Newton. They can all burn you with their legs, and the Vikings have done a phenomenal job so far at containing them. They're forcing turnovers this year, which is something that they haven't been able to do a whole lot of in the first 2 seasons under Mike Zimmer. I don't want to jump to any sort of Cloud 9 here and say, hey, let's championship game, Super Bowl, anything like that. But I did not expect them to beat the Panthers today. And so I really don't know what to expect from them. But I would say 5-0 heading into the bye is very realistic. And then you get Chicago and Philadelphia after that. I think
Philadelphia looks good.
They do.
Better than anyone thought.
Yes, I picked them at 4 wins this season, so I am dead wrong. They are my Carolina team of last year. But I believe they will force 1 or 2 turnovers from Carson Wentz. But that aside, this team's phenomenal. Sam Bradford's done a very good job through 2 weeks.
How about 9-0 facing Arizona?
And they will beat Arizona because Arizona sucks.
If they don't win the division, it would be a disappointment. If they don't get a bye, that would be a disappointment right now. You look at their schedule. Schottenkirk said this last week. They're going to be favored to win every game the rest of the way, point spread wise. This was the one game. Thought it'd be closer. Thought they'd lose. Thought it'd be a 1 touchdown game. But the defense was great. I don't think Cam Newton, you could call him a running quarterback anymore. At the goal line, 2 yards away, good idea. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, probably a good idea to sneak him. There was the one touchdown he scored, that was a design run. There was maybe 1 or 2 others that were design runs. I don't think he is a running quarterback compared to what he used to be.
Wait, who are we talking about now? Is running quarterback?
Cam Newton. I'd say not so much. He sat in that pocket. He's about as much as a pocket passer as you're going to expect. Again, first half was bad. Second half was better. Sam Bradford is good enough. Running game a little better. Good enough. Kyle Rudolph was very good. Stephon Diggs, decent. And again, the defense was. I mean, 20 points, that's your limit. If you can hold every team to 20 points, and they're probably going to hold 70, 80% of their opponents to 20 points or less, and they're going to be within every single game with the chance to win at the end. So
they look so good on grass today. I mean, that's the thing. They say that sometimes you play on grass, your speed's a little cut down, and you're still able to sack Cam 8 times. Just looking here, they get to play Chicago on Halloween, so that's good. Hopefully they avoid the shitty Soldier Field. Yeah, you're right. This is shaping up to be pretty special.
I'm very excited to get my expectations high because I know that kicker. I know that fucking kicker, boy. NFC title game, Arizona, Green Bay, Carolina, Seattle. Boy, I'm just looking for him to shank a 37-yarder left when it's 20-18 with 4 seconds to go. I'm very much looking forward to this kicker just doing what maybe a Browns kicker may have done today.
Instead of that, though, you can just focus on that defense, which I've said a few times, and maybe turn it into a broken record about this. But like, if it's not a team you care about, sometimes you don't want to watch defensive games. But if it's your favorite team, watching them play really good defense, especially the right kind of defense, like if they're, attacking and making plays, not just like, well, we're bend but don't break, and you guys messed up, and then you punted, but are like, getting tackles for loss, getting sacks, making plays on the ball in the secondary is fun and entertaining to watch. Defense done really, really well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, to the outsider, these, and even probably some fans, these are not fun games. Each game's pretty much been the same. They were down 10-0 to Tennessee? Is that right?
Yep.
They were down 10-0 today. They were down early to Green Bay 7-0, and they've come back. I don't know if they've ever came back from down 3 straight games, come back from 7 points down to win.
They showed the stat. They're 3-0 for the first time since 2009. And
what happened that year, Stacken? What happened that year?
That was they were an interception away from going to the Super Bowl.
That was the year that I watched it with 2 of my roommates that were Vikings fans, and one got blacked out drunk and said that they were going to have to trade away the entire offense after that game was over.
The offense, because the fumbles. Don't fumble the ball so much. It's the every 11-year thing. So we're a couple of years ahead of schedule here for that. But 98 had Randall Cunningham backup quarterback. 09 had 40-year-old Brett Favre the 1 year he was good. And this year is going to be the 1 year of Sam Bradford. So it's funny how that works out, the 1 year quarterbacks sort of deal. That comes out of nowhere and surprises everybody.
Just got to keep him upright.
Offensive line a lot better in that second half. Everybody was a lot better in that second half. Running back is out for until January. Wouldn't it be something, Stacking, if they make a deep run in the playoffs and this asshole wants to come back for the NFC title game? Things are going so well. They're 13-3, 12-4. They beat.
Slow your roll with January. I bet he comes back sometime after Thanksgiving. He'll come back Christmas Eve against Green Bay and he'll fumble twice and giving gifts to all the good little Packer boys and girls, and cool to all the Vikings fans.
This is a 3 to 4 month thing?
Yes.
Charlie, how do you feel about Adrian Peterson? Because I got a feeling he's going to not he will play a game this year.
He seems like a guy that he will do whatever it takes to be able to play and get back healthy. And if he thinks he can play, he will do whatever possible to get him in play. Like whether that's,
Take drugs, whatever.
Painkillers. And I don't mean like aspirin, but like much stronger painkiller stuff. Like, or like, do you want this shot of cortisone that will help you now, but maybe won't be good for your future? Like any of those things, I think he'll be like, yep, in a second, let me do it. And he's, there's the thing about running backs when they get to be 30, and he's 30 or 31 now, I think. Yep. So. I mean, whether you think he's still good or not, like, I don't think he's got a whole lot of time left in the NFL. It just depends if that's going to be, this year or 1 or 2 years, and I don't know who it's going to be with, but I think his time's coming to an end.
There is a report that the Vikings want to keep him on the team, that they want to keep him a Viking for life.
Jesus Christ, what do we have to do to get rid of this son of a bitch? My God, he's making $18 million next year. He was not good. He was not good these first 2 games, but we had the other 2 guys in there, and I would say they were a little better. McKinnon, I would say, was a little better than the Hall of Famer.
Yep, but now just wait.
God damn these fuckers.
They want it back at a reduced cost. There's no way you can pay him $18 million next year. And I think
he can pay the team $18 million. I'd say go fuck yourself. Find another team to play.
He's not gonna be back next year at $18 million.
Good.
There's no way.
You gotta get rid of him either way.
I don't think there's any reason to pay $18 million to a running back in his 30s that's past his prime for any team.
What happened?
Except the Browns. That sounds like something the Browns would do.
Browns, you got some injuries. How would you like a Hall of Fame running back for the price of a first-round pick? What happened, Charlie, at the end of this Browns-Miami game? Because lots of things happened, and it appears not all of them were good things.
I didn't see all of it because I was watching on Red Zone, and it kind of cut back and forth, but it basically seemed like I think my Dolphins had the lead, and the Browns either scored a touchdown or a field goal to tie the game. The Dolphins got the ball back like really, really, really late, like less than a minute left. Tannehill got sacked, fumbled the ball. The Browns recovered. They had like a 40-yard field goal on the last play of the game. They did not make it because they're the Cleveland Browns. And then I guess I didn't see this in overtime. Like Cleveland won the toss and decided to kick off, apparently. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There must be a lot of wind or something because I see no like we can debate whether you should ever pick to kick off. If you're ever going to kick off, there's no reason to do it if it's not because of extreme weather of some sort. And I think both teams had the ball and didn't move it. And then I don't remember if Cleveland turned it over or what happened, but the Dolphins scored. It was not a very well played team. Like, I make fun of Cleveland for being the worst team in the NFL, and I think they are. Like, my Dolphins are not far behind. I mean, if Cleveland's the pace car, then the Dolphins are drafting off of the Browns right now.
The thing with the Browns in this one, Cody Parkey was 3 of 6 for field goals in this game.
Hey, Steph Curry's a 50% from 3. Why is it not okay for this guy to be 50% from 3?
I don't know, because that's all he does.
Oh,
he says, supposedly. Should be noted that he just came off the street because their other kicker hurt his groin Friday in warm-ups or in a walkthrough, so that wasn't good. But the thing for the Browns is, I think if you're a Browns fan, you went into this game with your third-string quarterback, you weren't expecting anything, and it's kind of like being a Vikings fan. They lead you like, holy cow, the Browns might actually win this game, and we didn't think that was possible at all. And then they can do everything Cleveland Brown-esque to fuck this game up, and they did so. But
I don't think it's fair to compare Cleveland to your Vikings, because the Vikings have had far more success over the last 20 years than Cleveland has.
But they have, this is being a Vikings fan, though, here. You expect the worst, and Browns fans should expect the worst. However, Terrell Pryor is the real deal. There's reason for optimism in Cleveland, and one of the areas of optimism is Terrell Pryor, who had a monster day It was 3 of 5 for 35 yards. He had 8 receptions for $144. Ran it 4 times, had a touchdown. I'm telling you right now, with all the draft picks that they have stocked up, I am buying stock into the Cleveland Browns to make the playoffs within the next 3 to 4 years.
I will sell any Cleveland stock I have to you at an accelerated price.
The Boston.
Also, you mentioned Terrell Pryor, real quick. I saw this online or on Twitter, and it was kind of fun. He is the first player in a while to have 10 yards rushing, or at least 10 yards rushing, 10 yards receiving, and 10 yards passing in the same game. Can either of you two name the last player that has done that?
Randy Moss.
Not be a player you expect. It is not Randy Moss. I would classify this person as less athletic than Randy Moss.
That doesn't help.
Obviously athletic enough to be in the NFL.
This has happened last...
Significantly less. Brad Johnson is not the correct answer, but you were on the right track in a lot of ways. But it's more recent than that.
Might be a quarterback that caught his own pass.
He is a quarterback. I don't know how he got the 10 yards receiving. It didn't say. But it is a quarterback that is still in the NFL today. I don't know when he did it, though. Could have been 2 years ago. It could have been 7 years ago.
Ben Roethlisberger?
It has not been Roethlisberger, but I think that's the closest guess so far in terms of
Phillip Rivers.
It's not Phillip Rivers.
He wanted 1 yard for every kid.
No, that's the closest. I think that's the closest athleticism-wise.
So not a total stick in the mud. Oh, wow. A guy's still playing.
Is he still playing?
This person is still in the NFL.
Doesn't mean he's playing. How about a Matt Hasselbeck?
But he maybe has not played a game yet this year.
How about
there's the clue.
How about a you said Romo?
Yeah.
It's not Romo?
It's not Tony Romo.
How about a Tom Brady?
Tom Brady is the last person to have at least 10 yards rushing, passing, and receiving in a game.
Wow.
Which I saw that and was just like, man, I would have assumed that a running back would have done that more recently than Tom Brady. He had a trick play where he had a 15-yard pass or something.
You can sell all your Cleveland Browns stock to me because I am selling my Jaguar stock after I bought in with Schottenkirk, and this is just a disaster down there in Jacksonville.
Can I interrupt this?
The Jaguar stocks likes that Simpsons episode where it's a tech company or an online company that's just like shelling out stock like it's coming off a toilet paper roll. And that's basically what the Jags stock was like in the offseason and also what it's worth, like toilet paper. They're not that good.
The first 20 minutes of our show got... I pushed the wrong button. So if you're watching this back... You should probably watch the last 20 minutes instead of the first 20 minutes. It'll make sense. Because we started with Jose Fernandez and his.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
Someone else famous.
Don't tell Stacken.
I won't tell him. But I feel bad for Fernandez and his family because nobody's going to pay attention to this for the next week now. This is
not to play a guessing game with Stacken on what famous person died here. Since that's probably not the good thing.
Which is a fairly macabre game to play.
Jose Fernandez, and he will be a big story here, and I'm sure we'll touch on it here at the end a little bit, just to let the record show.
Didn't Brangelina die this week?
No, this guy, legitimately in his sport, if you want to,
you can make a case for him being the best ever. I think he's absolute, and he's certainly in the top 5 ever. Well, probably in the top 5 ever.
As good as he was, and he was in anybody's top 5, that being Arnold Palmer at the age of 87, has died. After golf was a big deal, and him, Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods. That is golf right there. Number 3. Who is after that? I don't know, but whoever it is a distant 4th. Arnold Palmer.
I would put Gary Player in the same.
He would be probably number 4.
Breath as those 3.
Sam Snead.
But if we were making a top 5, I don't know who else I'd put in with them. Snead would be fine with me.
So
we probably need Schottenkirk and Amon because they know more about golf than I do.
Yes.
Like I've got a decent low-level working knowledge of golf, but I'm not a diehard fan.
Kind of a surprise. He is 87. He is 87, but no, nothing to tell you that he was in failing health. He was 87, died on Sunday. 7-time major winner, and obviously lots of stuff besides golf. Your little, well, what is it? Lemonade and iced tea? I've never tried it. I don't like iced tea.
Arnold Palmer.
The damn drink.
I think it's called an Arnold Palmer iced tea.
That is.
Half iced tea, half lemonade.
That is.
Lemonade, man.
I worked at a gas station for a while in Brookings a long time ago, and there was a girl there that was obsessed with drinking those. And she mentioned at some point that she didn't know who Tom Arnold was.
Wow.
Or, sorry, not Tom Arnold.
Oh,
Arnold Palmer. Wow, that was a bad comparison to make. I apologize to the Arnold Palmer family. But she was just like, yeah, I don't know why there's this old guy on this picture. And I was like, well, that's Arnold Palmer. He's like, oh, so why is it a picture of him playing golf? I'm like, well, he was
I don't know.
like one of the greatest golfers ever. And she was like, oh, I didn't know that.
So nothing here that I can tell of causes or anything specific here, but Arnold Palmer has died. Jose Fernandez, boating accident. Again, he was my guy along with Chris Sale. And 24 years old, was supposed to start on Sunday. It got pushed back a day. They had their press conference today. Bad news there. First thing I saw when I turned on the TV, I flipped it over, and then there it was. Quite shocking and surprising. And like we said, Stacking, it was not only because he was so young, but he was so good. And really, you really can't compare it to anything that we've been able to think of here.
It is incredibly sad. Like I said, it's when you see these stories, they can affect you a little. Like you feel a little more sympathy and sorrow for some versus others. This one certainly hit me a little bit more than others, just because of how good he was, following the Marlins a little bit. And it's a tragedy. Like I said, I was listening to the press conference, and
it was rough.
It was. I didn't see it. I'm looking forward to watching it, and looking forward to a rather bad choice of words there. But I do want to see it just because I heard that the spectacle was something to behold with the entire team. In mourning, it's a rare that you see an entire team be affected by something so close, and when you see a guy who is beloved by his teammates and has as much respect from other players in the game as Jose Fernandez has, it kind of hits home with you, or I think it saddens you a little bit more than some other guys who are just a royal pain in the ass, and just a tragedy. It's an accident, and I said it kind of reminds me a little bit of what happened with Sean Taylor. Now, of course, Fernandez died in a boating accident, whereas Taylor was murdered in his home in a break-in. So, but overall, it's just extremely sad. And I was very happy that the Dolphins did the right thing today by holding a moment of silence before the game for him. I was expecting it, but sometimes you don't know if that sort of thing will happen when it crosses sports, but I was glad to see Miami do the right thing today.
I can't think of his name, but I would say the one it reminds me of the most, and this wasn't one I mentioned earlier because I forgot about this guy also. He was a receiver for the Bengals, I think. It was like he was in the back of a pickup truck or something, and
Chris Henry
flew out of it or something.
Yep.
Just another one. Just being that it would be another one that it was just like a freak accident thing, as opposed to,
and he was a guy that was
awful and murdering.
I mean, he was in a.
I don't remember what his name was either.
Chris Henry.
That's right.
He was one of Travis Henry's 12 kids.
He was. I mean, he had his fair share of trouble in West Virginia, and then he came, and Marvin Lewis said he was getting his life back on the right track. What did he have, a fiance? I think they had a kid or something there, or a kid on the way, and it was just that was certainly one that hurt as well.
As does Jose Fernandez. I think a week ago announced he's having a kid, and he's a top 5 pitcher in baseball right now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And early portions of a Hall of Fame career. He really, they mentioned Roberto Clemente, but that was at the end of his career. And he got to at least now whole career. And, Jose Fernandez never got that chance. And then he transitioned into the last game of Vin Scully, and that was a 4-3 with a home run in the 9th to tie it and a home run in the 10th to do it. And we can just talk about him more next week. Kind of the same thing that we did. But his final game, this is his final home game today. Final point stack, and there's a debate tomorrow night between the two presidential candidates.
Really?
And, there's going to be a lot of people are watching this. I've highly anticipated this event, maybe even more than Louisville Clemson. Last 3 debates, I think the first one is the biggest one for people watching. It's been in the 63, 65, 68, 9 million people range. I believe the record is in 1980. Reagan and Carter, they only had 1 debate, and that drew 80 million people. You like your TV ratings? Would you be as bold as to say 80 million people will watch these two people talk tomorrow?
Will be a lot more than we'll watch anything else tomorrow night, like Monday Night Football or
Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, Monday Night Raw. I think this is an especially important debate for Clinton, who has been falling in the polls as of late and really seems to be losing a lot of ground and a lot of momentum. I don't know if you guys saw this, but she did an interview with Zach Galifianakis and is Between Two Ferns. A lot of people criticize her for that.
Why does anybody go on that? I don't think. Well, I don't want to get into politics. I don't care.
A lot of people criticize her for it. I thought it was a tad awkward at times, but that's the whole point.
That is the point
of it.
If you did not feel that way, then they failed.
So I don't know. Well, that was interesting, but I think this is an important debate for Clinton, much more so than Trump. So she needs to come in there, not be mean, but she just needs to come, make her points, take a few jabs at Trump, but don't come out and be entirely vicious, because that will not be the best strategy. But then again, I'm not a debate strategist. I'm not a Democratic strategist.
Not anymore. Not anymore. You
not yet. Not since James McCarville took my job, just like he's going to take over for Les Miles.
Stacking hasn't been allowed to do any of that stuff since he let Anthony Weiner have his phone. Ever since then,
never should have showed it to him.
It was just, it was him and Brett Favre in the same room there back when Favre was with the Jets. It was just too many Wieners involved. I believe they were at a hot dog stand too when it happened.
Oh my God. Predict a moment, Charlie, of what's going to be the big talk. Something that Trump says that's going to be like, oh, look at this, snap. Something that the other one says.
I don't know. I'm not going to watch it. I'm sure that Trump will say something more outlandish than Hillary will. I will say that the Republicans will say that Trump won, and that the Democrats will say that Hillary won. And everyone will be like, well, we watched this debate, and we don't know we don't. I think if you don't have a clear favorite between the two, and you're undecided at this point, I don't think the debate's going to change your mind at all. And if you are decided that you like one of the two candidates more than the other, I don't think the debate will change your mind either way.
Undecided people are stupid. And if you're undecided this year at this point, holy shit, you've got some trouble. You couldn't get farther apart. So
what if you're undecided because you just don't care in the first place? Does that count or no?
then I would say either vote for one of the two or don't vote at all. If you want to vote for the third party, then that's fine. But like, if you're thinking I'm voting for this guy or this lady, then I can't. I can't.
I'd ever vote for a third party candidate. I would just go in and vote for myself if I was going to do that.
How about this?
Because I would be as likely to win as any third party candidate would, unless things change dramatically.
Can you vote for everything else except that? So I'm going to vote for this, this, and this, and maybe I leave the spot blank. I would assume that would be fine.
Otherwise, vote for Nathan Stacken.
I guess so.
Nathan Stacken, he'll build your new stadium. He'll improve your defense.
I know. I thought about this 2 or 3 months ago, as I was thinking, like, if you could pick one person and have like 10 people vote for him. Because I don't know this, but my guess is there's a lot of people that get 1 or 2 votes. But at some point, it's going to be like, well, you need at least this many votes to be like when you look at the results that listed.
To be on it?
Because I was thinking like, hey, it'd be fun if you could have like 12 people vote for one person and be like, hey, this person got 12 votes for president, even though they didn't win. And then I looked up, I think, I didn't look up like 5 or 6 elections. I think I just looked up the 2012 one. And to even be listed, you need at least like 2,000 votes. So I was like, oh, well, that idea goes out the window then.
It'd be tough to do. Maybe Les Miles will get some write-ins.
Although probably less now after that game last night.
Yes. So, fairly big day.
Ohio's an important state. Urban Meyer might win Ohio.
LeBron James, Steph Curry. So September 25th, 2016, fairly important day. Jose Fernandez, Arnold Palmer both died, different circumstances.
Death comes in threes. Who's the next guy?
Well, I can't say Abe Vigoda because he died a little while ago.
No, it's sports. It's a sports guy.
I don't know. Unless Miles got fired. Hopefully.
I will say, sadly, that it will be Bobby Bowden. I was just the first old sports person that's still alive and well-known that popped into my head.
As if it could get any worse, Stacken, if Vin Scully were to die next week or in 2 weeks, that'd probably be a bad deal.
Yes.
But if you're going to go out on top, I guess. 89, good health.
I agree it would be bad, but to try to inject some positivity and a little bit of humor, what if it was on, like, a walk-off home run in the NLCS to put the Dodgers into the World Series?
And he died
but, after it was done, and he said they won, and they went to a radio break.
He's done, right?
Then.
No playoffs
so it's like
for him.
he literally went out on top then.
That would be good. He's not calling the playoffs, which sucks. So he's done. I have no idea why. He's a radio guy. He should probably do the playoffs.
What if it was Coach K?
That would be very surprising. I guess he's not. I always forget. He looks a little bit younger than his actual age is. Maybe Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight's old.
Oh, yeah, let's go Bobby Knight. Because someone will have thrown a chair at him.
All these old bastards, they'll live forever. Bobby Knight's not dying for 20 years, which is sad. So, here we go, folks. Sports Lounge 188. We're back next week, Stacken.
One last one. One that would, in some ways, hit home for Travis Krenz. And by hit home, I mean just he knows who this person is.
Hulk Hogan? Don't say Hulk Hogan.
Not old enough where it's like he's knocking on the door, but old enough that it could happen at any point in time. What if it was Tom Osborne?
Wow. Yeah, that'd be easy. 80? You gotta be getting up there.
I'm thinking he might.
Huh?
That would. I honestly don't know. Is Conway Twitty alive or is
he died? He died in 1993, so I was 5 years old. I actually do remember the day he died. Like Conway Twitty died. I've heard of him. So look at that.
I shouldn't make light of that. That's sad.
It's 20 years ago. It's fine. He's not going to watch this. So, there you go.
How do you know?
Because he's dead.
He knows what a big fan you are of him. He's watching from above.
I know he is. He's watching from this, from the 4th story of this 3-story apartment. Right here. So college football, we got 3 top 10 matchups next week. And the Vikings play on a Monday night against the Bears. Boy, that should be enticing. Boy, that defense.
The way this game with the Bears looks tonight, that they're already down by 10 to Dallas, I think the Vikings will find a way to stall out a win over them.
No, it's the Giants next week.
And then Houston. Either way, they're going to kill the Giants, similar to what they did in December of last year. So, boy, those.
How many confused faces will Eli Manning make during the game?
All of them.
That's
all
the
the
right
faces.
answer.
He'll make all the faces up. There we go. Lounge 188. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the debates. Hopefully nobody else dies. We'll be back next week. Number 189.